I have a full-time job. I make a webcomic. And somehow I thought doing both was a good idea. Why am I doing this? I'm sure there are many other people out there that do the exact same thing. You may be one of them too. You work over 40 hours a week. You get home, do your chores, then sit down and work on your comic. I believe that's the reality for most of us webcomic artists. But how are we supposed to keep up with weekly updates? How can we convince ourselves to keep working on the comic after a rough shift? Can we manage the time and still be able to work on relationships? Hello there, my name's Chris and I used to work full-time as a surgical nurse with a lot of overtime and 20-hour shifts while working on my comic on the side. I say I used to because I switched jobs, but that's for another video actually. My girlfriend and I are the creators of the webcomic 7th Heaven and we started to actively work on it again since beginning of this year. In the background you can see a speed up version of me drawing some new pages for the latest chapter, so you got something to look at if you're not drawing while listening to the video. Okay. Let me yap about my experiences, how I managed my time and energy and how it affected my well-being. Okay, now comes the disclaimer. Every advice I give in this video is from my personal experience and may not work on you. I'm simply doing this video to tell you my story and hope that it helps someone else too. Let's start with the problem. Why is it so hard to work on a webcomic while also working full time? Okay, let's break it down together. You go to work. You are there for 8 hours, maybe even more considering break time and overtime, which I had lots of when I worked in the hospital. But you don't just spend time at work. No. You also have to get to work and you also have to get back home afterwards. Depending on your situation, it may take around an hour each. I used to use the train or ride my bicycle. That meant that the train may have gotten delayed, maybe you weren't able to enter the train because it's so full, or you were exposed to the natural elements while riding your bike. I had so many days where I came home completely soaked from the rain, and days where I came home extremely exhausted because I had to bike for 40 minutes in the sun while it's 40 degrees Celsius outside. My god, I don't miss those days. So you worked your 8 hours, you just came back, and how are you feeling? That's right, you feel like you could collapse any second and just want to throw yourself into bed and sleep. But oh no, the day isn't over yet. You still have to cook something, you need to eat, you need to clean up your house, you have to do laundry and all that other stuff. You gotta take care of yourself, go to the gym for example, or maybe spend some time with friends and family. Do you really have the time for everything? Not really if you want to have your 8 hours of sleep and need to be in bed at 10 p.m. But you just arrived home at 5 p.m. So you have about 5 hours time, but you haven't even started cooking yet, let alone clean your apartment. So out of those 5 hours of free time quickly turns into 3 hours. But you're so exhausted and you need a nap. Suddenly you only have 2 hours left. And some days you don't have the motivation to work on your art. And just getting a sketch done after brainstorming 1 hour on Pinterest, suddenly you have to make yourself bed ready. Then in bed you feel so bad for not having a lot of free time, so you sacrifice your sleep to have some time to scroll through Instagram or TikTok. 8 hours of sleep turn into 5. And the cycle begins again. This is basically what my life used to look like. And it is so incredibly frustrating. You can't quit your job because you need the money, but your true dream is to become a webcomic artist. Back then, I started to give myself expectations to fulfill. I needed to draw every day, no matter how shitty I felt or how tired I was. I needed to be fast so I could keep up uploading often. And I expected myself to come home from work and be completely fine. No tiredness, no screen time, no procrastination. Do you think that worked out? Absolutely not! And it made me so upset. Why couldn't I be one of those people who just seem to have endless energy? I want to quit working like a goddamn dog day and night. I wanted to live. Forcing myself to work while being barely able to keep my eyes open was such a horrible experience and so humiliating. I knew this wasn't normal. This needed to change. Something has to be done so that I don't feel so horrible anymore. So I had to find a compromise. And now, let me share with you what I did. Number 1. Stop trying to draw every day. I know this goes against what every other influencer says, but I mean it when I say it. You don't have to draw every single day. There are days where you are extremely tired and you are just not able to draw at all. Then don't! Chances are, when you force yourself to draw something, when you don't have a single bit of energy left in you, it's not gonna turn out good and you may just throw it away. You should rather take these days and rest, so you have more energy for other things or for the next day. You know what ironically is the hardest part about this? Dealing with the regret of shame of not drawing. I had a lot of days where I just didn't draw, and I felt so bad because I didn't draw. Back then my mentality was, if I didn't draw anything, it wasn't a successful day. Which is crazy to think about. And if you struggle with that yourself, good luck. You're gonna need it. Okay, jokes aside. It is hard to get rid of a mentality like that, but back then I was able to draw every single day when I lived with my parents and just went to school. But when I started to work and I couldn't draw every day since life got busy, that sucked a whole lot. So please, make yourself clear. Not drawing every day is okay. It will not stunt your social media growth, it will not reduce the effort of learning how to draw, and it will not make you less of a human being. It's okay to take your time sometimes. After all, we are just human and our energy in this world is limited. And in the long run, it will help you make better decisions when you start to draw. Trust me, sometimes you just have to recharge. What helped me, or in fact, still helps, when I feel bad about not working on my comic? Planning, that's right. Too tired to sit down and draw? Why not plan ahead and work on the story for a bit? Maybe you can write a script while laying in bed. Maybe you can also look at some art tutorials and try using some of the tips in your next art piece. What if you are not sure how to draw a specific perspective? You can search up some reference photos. So even though you're not drawing, you still work on your art in that sense. Now that we learned that not drawing every day is okay, what do we do when we finally have some energy to draw? Second, use your energy wisely. Okay, you finished all your chores, you ate and you also cleaned up? You find yourself having some energy left? What do you do now? Well, that depends on how much energy you have left, and that's the key here. When you just have a little energy left in you and you decide to draw something very difficult, like a perspective you never drew or maybe an extremely detailed background, you won't really get far with that. Instead, you should invest in something that matches your energy. If you feel like drawing but are still quite tired, you could do some easy sketching or simple coloring that doesn't require a lot of thinking. On days where you are full of energy, or maybe on your free days, you could start with those more difficult drawings since you have more concentration on that day. Try working more based on the capacity you have instead of what's due. Speaking about what's due, here comes the third point. Give yourself a deadline. Yeah, I know, deadlines can be really stressful and set you in a bad situation. But if you are strategic and realistic with them, it can really help you out. When I worked in the hospital, it was really horrible to manage my energy. There were weeks where I didn't draw anything. Since I was so tired, I blamed everything on my job. And I mean, to some degree, that was true. But if you always use your job as an excuse, that is also not very good. You may never get some progress in your webcomic, and after a month, you'll be so disappointed of how little work you put into it. So my solution was, make a realistic deadline. This kind of forced you to work on days where you are just procrastinating or when you're just a bit tired and decide not to do anything. Yes, you need to rest too. You don't need to draw every day. We established that with our first point, but you can't just do nothing at all for weeks. You also shouldn't go crazy with your deadline. You need to learn how much you can get done in a certain amount of time and stick to it. No, it's not bad when you can't finish your project in the amount of time you set up for yourself. Life comes with many surprises. I want to make clear, don't use the deadline to force yourself on days where you really need rest. Use the deadline on days where you're just not in the mood even though your energy is there. A lot of days I just didn't want to work on my comic because I had a bad day yesterday. But that wasn't a valid excuse for me since I rested yesterday and I had a pretty good day at work today. And that's how I stayed consistent. I uploaded at least one chapter every month, sometimes even two, and all that because I knew I had a deadline for myself and I couldn't just chill on days where I had energy but not the motivation. How to get the motivation, you ask? Well, I already made a video about that actually, which you could also check out after this one if you want. I hope I got my point across with the deadline thing. We enter number 4. Build a routine. Time management. That's a thing, right? You need to find out what you can get done in a day and what things you could do weekly so you don't just freestyle everything. I used to freestyle my day. Yes, I had a general idea what I needed to do in a week, but somehow I still forgot a lot of things and had to rush doing them at the end of the day. That was meant for my drawing session. If you think to yourself that's something you do a lot too, then let's create a routine together. Okay, you should write down what you want to achieve and do in a week. For example, you need to buy a birthday present this week, you need to go grocery shopping, you need to do the laundry, and you have a doctor's appointment. Then you write down on your calendar on what day you do these things. You could combine buying the birthday present with grocery shopping since you're already outside. The doctor's appointment is on another day since you may sit in the waiting room for a long time. But you could take your tablet or your sketchbook with you to use that time wisely. Then you do the laundry on another day again since you need the time to fold everything up and put it all away. That way you don't rush everything in one day and can plan your day around those activities. That way you don't get overstimulated with the amount you do. You can find the perfect time window to sit down in peace and work on your comic. On some days you may just have 1 hour, but on others you have 3 hours. And on your free days you can just spend the whole day working on your comic. You can experiment with different planners and find out what's best for you. Planning my week really helped me to get more consistent. And I hope it works for you too. Let's get to point number 5. Make your comic the thing that fulfills you. I may sound crazy saying that, but if you are not completely emotionally invested in your comic, then it will be hard for you to keep on working on it and work a full-time job. My comic is the reason I get excited to get off work. I want to work on it so badly that this alone can motivate me so much to sit down and just draw. Just because it makes me so happy seeing my story come to life. I can't wait to bring out the next chapter, see how it looks on Webtoon together with all the previous chapters. I'm so excited to see how my lovely characters interact with each other and what kind of funny things will happen. Or maybe there will be a drama part soon that makes you so excited what the readers will think about it. I see it as my purpose on this earth to release my story. The dream of becoming a full-time artist is so extremely big that it gets me out of bed and makes me want to jump onto working on my comic. You have to ask yourself the question, is it really worth it putting all of my free time into this comic? Because you do sacrifice a lot by doing it. You have to give up the comfort of just relaxing when you come back from work. Every second of free time where you have energy is going to be put into this comic. So ask yourself, is that really what you live for? Or is there something else that might fulfill you? Because if making a webcomic is so annoying for you, why put the time into it in the first place? You need that fire, the desire to create a story. Because this is basically working 2 jobs at the same time. Working full time and then your side hustle, creating a webcomic. Go deep within yourself and decide what's right for you, please. Okay, here's a little bonus tip. Just take a nap. After having a bit of a rough conversation with you, let's end it on an easier note. If you feel like you're on the verge of collapsing, just take a goddamn nap. I always try to not nap since those 30 minutes sleeping could be spent other ways. Like doing something productive. No. It just leads to me doom scrolling for 1 whole hour and still being extremely tired. If you feel like napping, just go. Just go take a nap. But don't just do a 5-minute nap. Those don't do anything for you. At least in my experience. Okay, it sounds crazy, but what helps me the most is having a 20-minute nap, waking up, and then sleeping for another 10 minutes. For me, it feels like after I wake up from that 20-minute nap, I'm happy I have another 10 minutes to sleep. Instead of planning to sleep 30 minutes, waking up and wanting to go back to sleep for another 10 minutes. But that's just what works for me. You have to decide yourself what is best for you. My girlfriend, for example, just has to put up one alarm and that's it. If she goes back to sleep after that first alarm, it's over for her. So just experiment and find out what works best for your body, since we are all different. You might also know the struggle of waking up from a nap and feeling completely dried out and fucked up. What I like to do is have a cold, fun drink in the fridge, so when I wake up, I can indulge on it and be pumped full with energy after I drink it. Okay, speaking about energy, the fun drink I like to have is actually an energy drink most of the time. But please remember, don't drink more than 1 can a day. On cold winter days, when your bed is just so warm and cozy after a nap, make yourself a warm cup of coffee. It really wakes you up and gives you some heat after leaving the warmth of your bed. And if you're not a coffee person, go make yourself some tea or a hot cocoa. You know, whatever floats your boat. But just take that goddamn nap. Just go sleep for a little bit. Yeah, so I guess that's how I'm currently trying to balance having a full-time job and making a webcomic. I'm definitely not saying I've figured everything out. Some weeks I get a lot done, and some weeks I barely touch my comic. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that's totally okay. If you're also trying to work on something creative while working full-time, I hope this made you feel a little less guilty about not being productive every single day. Because at the end of the day, you're still making something, even if it takes a little longer than you wanted. I like to tell myself that at least I am trying to achieve my dreams, and that's already a lot. Don't forget to leave a like and maybe subscribe. If you feel crazy, you could also check out my comic 7th Heaven on Tapas or Webtoon. I would love to hear how you liked it. Okay, anyway, let's end this for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, have a nice day.